Hello everyone, this is Eric Miller with Applied Engineering, and today I'm going to cover what's new in Autodesk Vault 2022. So got a good variety of things they've added, and we'll kind of go through a little presentation, and I'll try to show some of the features in a live demonstration also. So the key thing they're looking at here with 2022 is trying to make collaboration easier than ever. So whether it be people actually working in the CAD tools, maybe AutoCAD, Inventor, even they even show a SolidWorks icon there on the left side. So Vault is capable of integrating with SolidWorks, Creo. So there's a lot of actually Microsoft Word and Excel as well. So there's a lot of different tools we can use Vault with. So it's I think a very powerful data management tool for your company. If you're not using it yet, definitely think about it. It's just a great way to, obviously retain historical data, take a look at managing versions, life cycles, change orders, all the way from, kind of the concept of a design to the end of its life. So, and obviously able to collaborate, also with different people within your company, whether it's under the same building or Vault has the capability of replicating throughout, any other location as well. From the administrator standpoint, they've added some nice tools for deploying software, and maybe that next version you're ready to jump to 2022 or eventually 2023. You can now do that from Autodesk account. So then there's some other things in there as far as authentication we'll take a look at. And on the participant side, maybe you're not, heavily involved creating the designs from a CAD standpoint, but you need to be able to consume, those that data downstream, such as like sales or service or shop floor people. I'll show. I think that's actually one of the bigger highlights in my mind, I guess, of this presentation is I'll show that at the end. The mobile app, which is now available with, I think it was initially just for iPhone users. Now it's also available to Android users as far as cell phone goes. You can use it with tablets, stuff like that. But then also the thin client, which has been kind of given a facelift and some cool functionality added there. So we'll take a look at that towards the end of the presentation. All right, so let's take a look at authors first. And by that, we mean the designers, the engineers that are creating products. So first of all, the access to contextual and relevant engineering data has been enhanced. So we can now see details of your design, of your files, basically right within Inventor. So we used to have to bounce back and forth, and I'm a big believer in, if you're a designer, you want to be working in the CAD tool. You don't want to have these different programs going back and forth all the time. So that's the beauty of the integration within Inventor or AutoCAD or any of these other tools, is that we can do a lot of the Vault tasks like check in, check out, changing the life cycle, changing a revision. Now we can actually have a little bit more visibility on the where used, change orders, assigning items, and looking at your bill of material right within Inventor. So I'll show that here in a little bit too. So again, I'm just going to kind of run through all the topics, and then I'll kind of give some of the highlights a little bit later on. They have access as far as the other new features they've added is the latest release date and latest approver. So these are things that used to be kind of a property that was a little more difficult to maybe change, manage, and show on a title block. Now that is actually it'll actually look at the latest person as far as who just checked it in and update those properties and be able to show that on the title block also. For approvers, which is nice. Obviously there might be multiple approvers throughout throughout the different revisions that might happen on a file. So it's kind of tracking those latest changes. If you did get a chance, hopefully you were able to look at or attend the Inventor What's New. Jerry Oy gave that last week. We also had the What's New for Electrical in 2022 that Natalie Schrader gave. So hopefully you had a chance to attend those. I think there's obviously some cool things coming out in both of those software or applications. One of the things that's shown here is the model states that they've added to Inventor. And I think a ton of our customers are going to be, if you haven't seen this yet, take a look at it. It's a great way to try to, everybody's, trying to manage these different little small tweaks on components, whether it's a machine component or, kind of a cast component, and then there's maybe machining, or maybe there's, some other types of operate. Maybe it's the paint or the plating on a part, and you don't necessarily want to have a different part number for each one of those. Now we can control that within using model states. So it's basically like, it's kind of built to do these minor little tweaks to parts, maybe the different operations that might happen to it, and then be able to show that in a model using the same file name basically, but a different state of that file, or that part number. So we can, and Vault does a good job managing that. We can actually create multiple items based off of all the model states. When you're placing one of those models in an assembly, you can then have the option to choose which model state do I want to pull in. So I think that's definitely, we used to have design views, we've had, levels of detail for assemblies, those kind of things, but this model state is really like a level of detail for a part, versus an assembly. So I do think that's a powerful function they've added here and can be really helpful for some companies. We've also enhanced the interoperability between Inventor and Revit. More and more, these different disciplines are working together. So we've got Revit is obviously more of an architectural tool, building the 3D, buildings, whether it's commercial, residential, whatever. But Inventor is still the best tool for product design. And so these two talk to each other, quite a bit. And it makes sense that you would design something up in Inventor and pull it into Revit, or vice versa. So now Vault has the capability of managing those files, Revit files within Inventor assemblies a little bit easier, a little bit better. We can now place Revit files from within, from the Inventor environment from Vault. So just again, kind of keeping that cross-functional relationships, kind of enhancing that, and kind of taking it to the next level. Well, let's take a look at duplicate reduction. I think almost every company we look at, especially when we first do a Vault implementation, one of the first tasks once you get Vault set up is to migrate data into Vault. And never fails. I mean, there's an autoloader tool that we use to do that. And I don't think I've been in one company yet where there hasn't been duplicates. That's just based on the file name. So if you think of the other duplicates that are actually the same exact part, but just different file names, then you even take it up to another level. So that's what Vault can do now. I think this was just released last year, the year before, or last version of the version before, as far as being able to find based on geometry the duplicates in your system. So powerful tool. It's kind of one of those things. Everybody's got these copies of files and probably multiple part numbers out there that are actually the same thing. So if we can eliminate that, you can really reduce the overall number of part numbers, parts you have to have on the shelf, all that inventory and all just the data that's required to manage multiple files. If they're the same thing, why not use them in multiple spots? So I look at it as like one of those, almost like an intern project for the summer. Just run through all these. Obviously, if you find duplicates, you find the master, and then you can replace all the non-master files with the master and all these assemblies. Now that might sound like a lot of work, but it's honestly in a few days you can really eliminate a lot, because technically if they're duplicates, you should be able to replace them without any, as long as the geometry and some of the surface IDs, things like that, most of the time they match up pretty well, so that if you're swapping them out in other assemblies with the exact same file pretty much, there's really not a lot of extra work that you have to do in Inventor. You can do that in bulk. You can actually do that in bulk from Vault using the replace function there. So something to think about, getting rid of kind of some of the clutter in your Vault. More and more customers too Vaults are getting larger all the time. You got multiple designers checking stuff in, so managing some of that, purging some of that old stuff out is helpful. So one of the things they've added with 2022 is now we can exclude mirror parts. So that's a common thing. If you've got a left and a right, we mirror the parts, but they actually might be similar geometry, but we can just kind of uncheck those to make sure we're not replacing those if we don't want to. You can identify an exact match. So that's basically an exact copy But again, it looks at geometry, so you can actually model up a part, using different tools, whether it be shell, extrude, or whatever. They don't have to actually have the same feature data. It's all based off of, the actual end geometry, the entire, basically this shell. So it doesn't care what features there are. So but an exact match is kind of handy to understand that too. So that's just another one of those tools in there you can look at. And then obviously different materials. If you've got the same part but different materials, maybe there is a purpose for that. We don't want to replace anything that's, aluminum versus steel or whatever, if they're the same shape of a part, but we want to identify that the materials are actually different and we want to keep those separate. That's part of it here as well. And then also they've added the metadata search. So if we want to combine a geometric search with a metadata search, so maybe just certain folders, maybe certain different life cycles, we can pull in any of that criteria to be able to narrow down the search a little bit. All right, let's take a look at the administrator side of it. Again, I think this is not just for Vault, but for multiple applications throughout the Autodesk toolbox, basically. But deploying, it can be a pain in the butt for, especially for those larger companies. I mean, if it's just a handful of people, it's not so bad to download, extract, install, choose what options you want, that kind of thing. But when you're installing, several different applications for maybe 20, 30 to 100 or 200 different users, it's a huge endeavor. And you got to make sure everybody is consistent, make sure it's working. So these deployments are key. And there's been ways to create deployments in the past. This isn't anything new. It's just now you can do it from Autodesk account. There's some special tools in there to be able to speed those things up, like symbolic links. So take a look. I guess we'll show it. I don't have an exact screenshot for that, but if you're familiar with the Autodesk account, obviously everything's kind of going to that subscription base. So generating that deployment can be done now much easier. And kind of from an area where you're used to kind of managing users now. Another thing they've added is the ability to change authentication types. So they've added one to the mix here, Autodesk ID, and that's actually what everybody's email address basically now is kind of where I think Autodesk is focusing on, going away from network licenses. I know not everybody's super excited about that, but there definitely are some benefits. If you think about updating the license manager, generating new license file each time, I mean, those things are kind of a pain in the butt sometimes. And now just basically any new version, if that person is assigned to it, they'll have the new version once it's installed. So instead of having a generated license file, you don't have, it's just assigned to them already. And that's based on their Autodesk ID. Within Vault, if you remember, you can always we've been able to do Windows authentication for a long time, and then just a Vault username and password as well. So those are the three types, and then you can kind of allow somebody to have all three, or you can restrict it. So it just kind of depends on, just gives you more flexibility on who needs to access and how they need to access it. We can actually track now with users profile attributes. So maybe you want to kind of identify what division certain users are in, what location they're in. You can attach those profile attributes to an actual user now. It's almost just like a property or a file in a way. So just makes it easier to manage the user group and being able to control and sort within the global settings, basically within Vault, to be able to manage those things better. Also added here, you can give a friendly user display name. If you're not, it's always been typically like for my user, it's emailer or whatever it comes in as. So now you can actually use a different display name if that is more. Just kind of makes, again, I think Autodesk is kind of focusing on these are people, not just not just numbers, basically. I guess based off of that too, now we can track that a little bit easier. So there's some different audit logs they've added now as far as who's accessing which vault. A lot of companies have multiple vaults. If they need to have, different, maybe there's a mechanical or an electrical that they don't really collaborate. So having some separation there can be beneficial just as far as overall search or, search capabilities, limiting some of that and then being able to, not have such an overly large vault. They can be kind of separated out. So we can track also then how they authenticated and which client was used. Also made some improvements to the replication technology. So if we've got a handful of customers that replicate to multiple sites, it's probably maybe more than that, but setting up that replication is it's a little bit more of an involved process. You have a publisher and then subscriber sites. The database can be replicated, so SQL can be replicated to these other sites. There's also options to just do file replication and use just kind of a master SQL database at the publisher site. So there's a variety of ways to do that. However, there's always been this concept of ownership of the file. So the ownership had to be transferred from the publisher to the subscriber, or maybe to other subscribers, depending on who was modifying that file. So it was a little bit of a extra step there involved, and sometimes if you didn't have permissions, you had to wait for an administrator to do it. So being able to freely work on files wherever you're at just made it a little more difficult. So now that need for ownership has been eliminated, and the publisher is really kind of the main controller of that read-write capability. So but you have the files still at each subscriber location. So it's just kind of the database that kind of flips the switch to be able to let somebody else modify that file. All right, I guess this is kind of going back to what I was talking about earlier as far as the installer experience. The screens have look a little bit different for 2022. You may have noticed that if you've installed anything and tested it out. But then also the deployments from the Autodesk account. You see that bottom right screenshot there kind of shows the start of that. There are some other tools that get kind of added here, and you can kind of say, okay, where do we want to install? Where's the network location for the actual install files? And then basically everybody kind of installs, with one link from that kind of central location. So those are some of the things here they've added with the new installer experience. All right, let's take a look at some of the participant enhancements. So again, when we talk about who's really needing to access this data, it's not just the designers and engineers, it's people on the shop floor, it's at the customer site, in the field. So we need to be able to collaborate. We need to be able to, access that data quickly without having to use, open up a laptop all the time. So I guess as far as on the shop floor, reducing the amount of paper required. If you can set up screens, for some of these workstations, you're going to give them better access, and you're going to, every time you print something out, I'm kind of old-fashioned. I like to have if I'm marking up something, it's just easier for me to do it if I print it out. However, as soon as you print it, it could be out of date. So I think that's one of the things you have to be aware of when people are printing stuff in the shop. As soon as a change rolls around, how do they know that printed copy is now out of date? So got to be a little wary of that. I think most companies obviously have maybe battled that in the past. If somebody prints something off, it's now potentially out of date, within minutes after that. So want to try to imagine, and obviously if you can give people access to the data right where they need it, setting up these either tablets, maybe monitors, wherever necessary in the factories, that can really help. It says don't get caught without the right documentation at a customer site. So again, you print it off, you take it to the customer site, it might be out of date at that point. So being able to access it, even just showing them the live data, rotating a model, things like that at a customer site is pretty powerful. It can be a really good, sales tool. People like seeing that, the 3D visualizations, and you can really kind of get to know the product a lot better if you can kind of see it exploded and things like that. Same thing in the field, reducing the need to print off paper documents, searching, if you have QR codes can be embedded there. Don't get caught without the right documentation. I think they said that a few times there. So this is showing the new thin client. Up in the upper right there is kind of and I'll pull this up in a live demo here shortly, but obviously they've went to the black screen or the dark screen. That's something Inventor now just came out with a non-beta version, so it's kind of fully, I guess, signed off on pretty much. It's no longer a beta, but On the Inventor side, you've got the ability to do the dark screen. And I remember at Autodesk University one time they announced they're coming out with that, and everybody was cheering. I'm just like, I didn't realize that was that big of a deal, but a lot of people like it. So almost, obviously kind of looks like AutoCAD, maybe a little bit easier to, as far as the eye strain over a long day, not having the bright light in front of you. So check that out and see what you think on the Inventor side also. But we can, this is multiple tab browser support, so you can actually open up multiple drawings and multiple tabs or multiple models, kind of go between them. So that's kind of handy. It embeds the Forge viewer now. So we're basically within the thin client, we used to have a little bit of an embedded design review for those that have been using Vault for a while. That kind of went away. It was just really kind of quirky, a little bit unstable. So, over the past couple versions, basically we've been downloading the DWF file and looking at in an app, a desktop version of Design Review. And you can still do that. There's still benefits to that also, as far as printing, if you need to, using some of the tools to create a markup. Design Review is still a great tool for that. However, if you just need to look at something, rotate it, maybe explode it, you can do that all now within the Forge viewer within the thin client. All right, obviously the world we live in is mobile, so that kind of takes us into the mobile app. I kind of mentioned that earlier. This has been around for a little bit. Like I said, it can connect with Vault 2020, 2021, 2022. However, now again, they've added this is just probably within the last year at least, the Android version. So, but some of the other things you can do with the mobile app here are, like the thin client. I don't know if you noticed on the last screen, I think I forgot to mention it, but they've added now, you can see change orders. This is something I've been, wanting Autodesk to do for a long time. Allow, at least visibility of change orders. So now we have that in the thin client. You still can't sign off on anything within the thin client. It's more of a read-only type of application there. But however, with the mobile app, we can actually do that. We can create change orders. We can sign off on change orders. So all that from a tablet or from your phone, still look at files, review 2D, 3D designs. Pretty neat to be able to do that from your cell phone or from a tablet. All right, I'm going to come back. This is actually, so I've got a little preview here of the mobile app. I'm going to come back to that though. I just want to show a couple other things first. But yeah, obviously it's harder to show a mobile app on a webinar like this. So I do have a little video there that kind of at least shows some of the capabilities. But just to kind of recap here, obviously the main areas here where we've made improvements, or at least we as Autodesk basically, but the authors, the administrators, and the participants. So people that actually use the integration within Inventor. I mean, these are the designers, engineers that are building products, being able to use it more efficiently, more power built in right into the integration. Administrators obviously making their lives easier too. I mean, managing users is always kind of a challenge. New people starting, people changing roles, all that kind of stuff is done with by the administrators. And then just implementing new versions. We want to make that easy. We don't want people to be like, we're going to wait for version 2023, and I know that's not unheard of, and I don't necessarily say, oh, you have to move to each new version when it comes out. I think if it ain't broke, you don't always need to fix it, right? But some of these enhancements are going to be, I think, pretty makes a good reason anyway. Good, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess, but obviously compelling arguments for moving to the new versions. So I guess whatever, if you look at some of this what's new stuff, hey, that would really help us out. Then make that jump to install 2022 and get everybody upgraded. Obviously, just a little bit of tidbits there. In order to upgrade to a new version, you always have to do the server side first. If you're new to Vault, so make sure we upgrade that server first, and then you can go out and upgrade the clients, whether it's Inventor or AutoCAD, and then obviously the Vault client. Typically, you want to do that one last so that it sees all the applications there and installs the add-in during that application or during that installation. The participants, more and more people we've got companies now where it's not just, again, the engineering team using Vault, it's everybody else. They need that one source of truth. So instead of copying files out to a network folder, or, making printouts, copying the data wherever. Anytime you copy it, it's like, okay, that's a process. It's another step that you need to make sure happens when anything changes. So the more we can kind of have everybody pointing to the same, one source of truth, I think it's definitely a better scenario. And now they're making it easier than ever to access it quickly and make sure you're getting the right stuff. So there's a couple things just to mention. Obviously, Autodesk likes to post really all these things online. It's all available to the public. So there's a forum out there. That's a great place to kind of get answers or get questions answered quickly. There's the feedback. So anything, I think you've probably seen some of these surveys come up. So feel free to give Autodesk feedback. They take that into account. Obviously, the ideas page is a great one too. So if you have an idea for Inventor, for Vault, you can just kind of search. This used to be called the Idea Station. I think it's just called Vault Ideas. But submit first thing you want to do is do a search. Make sure nobody else has submitted that yet. But definitely, I've done a bunch of those. And if you want me to do it, just send me an email too. I'm happy to submit these ideas. So it's nice to see certain things kind of actually come through. And I think it actually probably listed in this presentation. I didn't point it out, but as far as which ones were based off of user input. I mean, most of the time it's about half of the things that they build into the new version come from user input. So it's definitely an important part, and they're just trying to make it, meet the needs of the, people throughout the world. And just another point to the knowledge.autodesk. I think basically it's knowledge.autodesk. So the knowledge base out there is really a great place to go search. The help is obviously integrated into most of these applications. So there's a Vault help if you launch the application, but take a look at if you just Google something, honestly, you can find answers to it. I think I've worked with a lot of different CAD tools and data management tools, and Autodesk is the best at letting everybody know, here's what the issue you might see, here's the screenshot, and then here's how you fix it. So obviously we're applied engineering is here to help with those issues too. So feel free to reach out to us, but a lot of times it's maybe just something quick that you can find just by searching the web. All right, so we'll say thank you, but I am going to jump into, and if there are any questions, feel free to post those in the GoToWebinar. But I think at this point I don't see any, so I'm just going to jump into the live system here and just touch on a couple of those things. All right, so this is just your regular Inventor interface here. I always like showing the Vault tab, so I like to put that right next to my model browser. I'm a right clicker, so basically you can right click on anything in your Vault browser, do your checkouts, check-ins, things like that, change the states. So if you're using Vault, definitely I would recommend, and this just can be hit in the plus sign and add those tabs. And you can move those around, they're dockable. So if you don't like having so much space on the left, you can do that. Speaking of that, I'm gonna go over to the Vault tab up here. There's this new option called Show Details. I'm gonna click on that. And by default, it loads it on the bottom of my screen, but now we can see the same data that we saw when we go and look at this file within Vault. So now you've got all this right from the Inventor interface. And this can be, moved up and down if that's taking up too much room. I can, drag that down a little bit or drag it, wherever, but let's put it back on the bottom here. But now we see the history of, how many versions have been created for this. Looks like there's 3 versions for this part. We can see if this is an assembly, but we'd be able to see the uses, any components underneath it, the where used. So in this case, I think this is one of the most, helpful things. If you're working on a part in Inventor and you're trying to figure out, okay, man, if I change this, what else is it going to affect? We used to have to go back to Vault, do a where used on it from there. Now you can see that right here and see, okay, there's the assemblies. There's a couple different levels here where we can, and just think of that in the Windows environment. Obviously if you're not using Vault, you don't have access to this, as far as the where use. So one of the other, compelling reasons to move to using a data management tool is because all these relationships are stored and can be viewed and searched on, and just a lot better for everybody when you kind of know where everything's at and know where the part is used. Also then change orders and bill of materials. I don't have any BOM created for this one yet. These are the bill of material item side. but you can assign items right from here also. So I guess I could just, if I go to this, this is called female end IPT, right click on that, and I can go assign update item right here. And we used to have to do that from within Vault. And so for those that aren't familiar with that, now on the item side, let's see, I think that should refresh. There we go. So items are basically, it's sort of like a sort of another side of Vault. A lot of our customers use Vault just for data management, or for file management, and that's what we're looking at here. This is a CAD file, but eventually that structure, that part needs to be loaded into an ERP system or into a service tool or anything downstream. So the bill of material item can work as like a carry of all the information that's required for that part. Maybe you're adding other stuff to the bill of material, like grease and oil. So all that, maybe we don't model it up, but you can finalize your bill of material within Vault and then export that to an ERP system and integrate it actually, or kind of import, from other systems back into Vault. So there's a nice tool there. If you haven't taken a look at that, that is just Vault Pro. Obviously, there's the 3 different editions of Vault. Vault Basic is kind of the free one that comes with Inventor. You get Vault Workgroup and then Vault Pro. So the bill of materials and the change orders are only available within Vault Pro. But even for those users that are using Vault Basic, having the history, the uses, the where used, that's for everybody. So definitely take advantage of that. So let's take a look at those model states also. I actually pulled one in up here, and if you notice here, I added one with chamfers. So maybe it's just something it's a machining operation that I kind of want to keep the same part number. And if I just, double click on that one, we can see I added a couple chamfers here. And so it's almost like just adding another operation to that from the master part. So maybe it comes in like this from our supplier, and we have to add our own, secondary machining operation. We want to keep the same part number so it tracks through, but it also has to be sort of managed as separate things. So that's where these model states come in. And so, Vault is going to keep track of those. If you, scan for the configuration as it moves in, it'll manage those, and you can actually create multiple bill of material items based off of each model state. And just to show, if I go, let's just open a new assembly as you bring that in. So I've already checked that one in, but here's just the new assembly. And let's say I go place, we can go place from Vault. And I'm going to go into that, where that one's at here. You can do a search here. Obviously, using the search functions is a great way to speed up, digging, instead of just digging down, definitely take advantage of the search. There's kind of the full search here. If you use the binoculars, I came over on my other screen right here to be able to search on just any property. Obviously, the one of the main, again, reasons for using Vault is all that metadata is stored and is linked to the file, and all the relationships between other files are stored. So just over and above what you get in a Windows environment. So it's kind of a definitely worth looking into if you're not currently using Vault. All right, anyway, we're going to grab this one, and then down to the bottom here, let's see. Bottom left, options. Now I can say, which one do we want to bring in, with chamfers or the master? So in this case, I want to bring in the one with chamfers, so I'm going to hit OK on that. But these are the different model states. And you actually have some view options there too. So hit that one, hit open, and we place it into our assembly. And notice this brought in then the one with model state. Yeah, it's showing as a substitute underneath there. So, but anyway, yeah, and it shows down here too, obviously, in that, oh, yeah, that's right, that was down here. If we expand that out, it's actually got that check. It still has the master options. You can go back and forth between the assembly, but it's showing right now that this component is the one with chamfers kind of in parentheses. So just allows you to kind of manage those little tweaks to components a little bit easier. Okay, let's take a look at the duplicate search once. I'm going to go back. Actually, let's go back to this one here. Let's go back to the master part. And if we do find duplicates up on top in my Vault tab, let's go find duplicates. And now we've got those options. So we can go same material as input, geometry. You can use some of the advanced filters here to to search, certain folders or different other different properties. But let's just go ahead and hit search. This one actually says good. We haven't found any duplicates. I'm going to try one other component here, and we'll see kind of what it looks like if we do find a duplicate. Let's try. Is it the lift ring? Let's try this one. So we're going to add that, select component. There we go, hit search. Interesting. I think I know I've got some that have duplicates out there. I think when I made the copies of these ones, I must have not re-indexed it on the vault side. So if we go on the vault side, you can quickly see in the duplicate dashboard, what we have right now. It shows 10 duplicates. It says 3 parts were not indexed. That's probably just the 3 that I just put in there, but 5 unique shapes. So 10 duplicates of 5 unique shapes. I wonder, let's see if I've got, try a different one in here, maybe grip, is it? I have several of these. Let me just try something else here quick. Old settings. So this is where, you would set up your duplicate search options. We can go configure in here. And if we want to have the entire folder, we just added the designs, enable duplicate search, hit OK. But yeah, that's basically where you it's pretty easy to set up here. If we want to add a new section, like if I want to, right now I just have the design set up, so I don't have the content center or the libraries. We could add those to it. Maybe I'll do that, just kind of show, add content center. And now it had to kind of reevaluate all that. So if I go refresh, go back to duplicates, now we're actually down to 19.2 because now it actually did, okay, 6 parts were not indexed. So I think there's still some indexing that needs to happen for the new stuff that I created. That was in these common parts here. So you can see there are some duplicates here. Let me just see if I can open this one up. Oh, you know what though? I wonder if I didn't. We'll give this one a shot. Okay, now we got, now it showed a duplicate here for this particular part. So I think it just, it needed to re-index that. It says used in one file, shows where that's at. And then here it shows, indicates that the part shares the exact same source. So a copy of this one, you see this is called new female end. The other one I had was just female end. So obviously they look the same. I added some stuff as far as the chamfer there. This one, let's see if I don't think it has the other model state, so it doesn't. But we can see here if we want to open the current one up, go to vault folder, or even just place instead of this one. That's kind of the nice thing about it too, is it lets you identify which duplicate and then replace it with the other one, or if you're placing it in an assembly, place it with the other one instead. So anyway, that's kind of the results you get there. And again, we could use some of those advanced search to only check certain folders, things like that. Okay, let's take a look at a couple of things. I know we're kind of running up against the amount of time here, so I do want to just kind of show the thin client quick. I think I've got that open here, so move that over. So here's the new sign in for the thin client. One thing to note is, you have to enter in basically your server name / Autodesk TC for thin client. Then in order to log in the appropriate vault, you can go / your regular, which vault you're logging into. And you should see that down here. I'm logging into AOTG vault. So it's a little bit different than it used to be. It used to be a pull down list of any of the vaults that you currently have, in your system on that server. Now you enter it in up in the URL. So a little bit different there. But then we can put in our username, password, hit sign in. and it takes us into this new version of the thin client. So again, on the left, you've got the option to go to Files, Items, or Change Orders. So again, that's something new. We can see all the change orders that are currently out there. I really think this is an awesome addition. It used to be one of those where, you know, if you can't extend the ability to see change orders beyond the engineering team, what really good does it do? You know, obviously the shop floor, other downstream departments need to be able to see this. So now they have the ability to at least look at them. Again, can't participate, but we're able to see, you know, all the different information here, the records that are associated with it, any attachments, you know, be able to jump to those and be able to look at, you know, a view of this. That one doesn't have a view created. Shouldn't I just jump to that one specifically? Let's go back to one that I know it does. We'll take a look at, say, this link adjust. So again, we got the properties here. Again, we can see history, different revisions, where it's used, so we can expand that out. We've always had the capability of uses and where used, so that's nothing really new, but can see items if there's any associated. There's the change order, but also now the view using the Forge viewer. We have the option here to right from within the screen, super easy way to manipulate the model, zoom in, zoom out. Got the exploded options here. You kind of take a look at all the different components. If there's some internal components, we can see that. Look at the, you know, the model structure, so we can expand out and see all the different components, what their names are. You can kind of turn on and off certain components here just to, you know, look at some transparent, maybe focus on other ones. So just added some really cool capabilities. And the Forge viewer has been out there for a little while with other tools. So it's basically like Autodesk Viewer, the cloud-based option. This just utilizes Forge kind of more internally in order to be able to see, you know, these models and work with them. Again, you've still got the option to download them to design review, so you can still look at that and mark things up. Obviously, this more on the drawing level at that point versus, you know, this is an assembly, but turn things on and off. So anyway, check this out, try it out. It's I think you'll find it's got a lot more power and just a quicker, easier way to kind of get to these part information fast. All right. One last thing I'd like to show here is I'm going to go back to the presentation and just show a little bit about the mobile app. So here is kind of showing the mobile app. This is like if a person's at a customer site, you're able to get right in there. It's kind of going a little bit fast. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Okay, I think that's working now. But they're able to navigate right to a, you know, search for a file, find it here, look at the details, the properties of it, look at maybe different components that are underneath. There's the drawing, where used. Open up and view this just from your phone or from a tablet. Do the same thing like that Forge viewer we just looked at, be able to explode something. You know, look at the bill of material on the side, figure out, you know, maybe the customer says, I want to tweak this thing a little bit. It can actually generate and start a change order right there. So notice that, they're going to the item right now, I think, but you can add that to ECO. So now they've got an ECO already. They're entering in the, you know, a change order number, and that can be automatically generated as well, but putting in the name or the title of the change order description. So without even have to call, you're at a customer site, you're saying, here's a change order, submit it, and they're going to get notified, you know, back based off of the routings of these ECOs. There's automatic routings. This is showing right from your mobile, being able to upload a Word doc here. Maybe you took some notes at a meeting at a customer site, upload that to the ECO so that you can see it, and hit submit, and just enters a, you know, submitted by whatever you want to enter your name there. Now this is back at the design, I guess at the office. Person gets notified, okay, there's an ECO out there. So the change administrator decides, okay, let's take a look at this, and decides, okay, let's pass it on to the work stage. That's kind of the, just kind of goes through these routings. They can add comments here too to say, hey, we're working on this. You'll get notified back on the ECO as well if you're the, you know, creator of it. So just some really nice connectivity there from being able to participate in ECOs, even just start ECOs. So if you think about somebody in the shop floor, even maybe not even at a customer site, but on the shop floor, if they're able to do this and say, hey, we need to take a look at making a change to this design. I found something here. There's a sharp corner that, caught on your clothes or something like that, or maybe just an idea on how to improve it. Submit that, goes back to the design team, all without having to even take one step. So it's pretty cool capabilities there to be able to interact and use change orders from the mobile app. All right, well, that was all I had for today. So appreciate everybody's time, and good luck with your with the rest of the your design. I guess what am I trying? Basically with the good luck designing your products in 2021, and hopefully, if you have any other questions, if you want to move to 2022, let me know. We can certainly help with that. And I guess we'll catch you down the road sometime. So thanks. Have a great day.